Hello again, I'm Larry Hamilton. Thank you for watching my YouTube painting channel. Today we're going to do another watercolor, probably a quick one I hope. I'm going to show you a couple techniques that I've recently come across that I had forgotten to try with things like sunsets or sunrises. So I have a scene here from Tennessee over a river, and has some trees in the background, a little cabin, and sunset going on. So we're going to try to see if we can make some rays from the sunset pop out, and I'll show you that technique today. So as usual, I have my photo at the top, I have my value map, and I have my sketch on here in pencil. I think maybe you can see that. It's pretty light, but it's not a very complicated sketch either. But that's what we're going to try. Our brushes today are the same ones we've been using with the Sterling Edwards set of brushes. I have a medium bristle brush, 1.5 inches. I have a small bristle brush, it's 1 inch. I have a flat 1 inch brush, a flat 1/2 inch brush. I have a number 12 round, a number 8 round. I have a number 4 round. And I have a little script liner from American Painter. It's a number 4. The paints, I'll go through them very quickly again. We have neutral tint, we have cyan blue, ultramarine blue, ultraviolet, crimson lake, garnet lake, cadmium red, burnt sienna, raw sienna, yellow ochre, cupric green, golden lake, limon yellow, primary yellow, burnt umber, sap green, Auvergne orange, primary red magenta, and still to green brown. So that's the paints, that's the brushes. And without further ado, I should tell you the paper we're painting on today is Fabriano Artistico, and it's 300-pound cold pressed paper, and the size is 10 by 14. All right, let's get going here and see if we can do justice to this painting. I'm going to start out with a little bit of water in the sky. I call this October sunset. I'm going to try to make it a little more fall looking than is in the actual photograph, but that's the what we can do with our artistic license. So let's start up here. Just put a little bit of water in the sky, not too much. I'll put a few mountains maybe back there in the background in the distance just to give a little more depth. That's not in the photograph either. It's really just a sky, some trees, a sunset, and water here with a little cabin back there in the distance. So I think that's pretty much all the water I'm going to put on. So let's start with the sky and see if we can get some raw sienna. Get a little my stud up here. Come on, there we go. All right. I'm just going to touch a little bit in up here in some spots. Give us a little color in the sky. And not much more than that. I'm going to take a little bit of my CAD red and mix it with that color and see if I can get a little bit of a more of a reddish tint in here in some areas. It is a sunset, so we'll try to get some. I don't even know if that's going to be dark enough for you to see it. It's pretty light here in my. Put a little more red in here. At least you can tell what's going on maybe there. Okay. Something like this. We got a little bank of clouds in there, a nice little bank of clouds that I want to highlight, and leave it at that. Very quick, very fast, very loose. And let's start with some of our ultra blue here. I'll start getting a little bit of ultra blue out. And if I mix that with a little bit of this CAD red, I start getting a nice little violet color you can see there in the palette. Have it to the blue side, have it to the red or orange side, and I'm going to just try to put in a few light clouds there, like right in here, something like this. Flat 1-inch brush. Leaving some white around the tips of these so we can have some maybe highlights that are caused from the sun. Okay, something like that. Whoops, a little bit too angular. Clouds don't have a lot of angles in them. It's rare if you see a cloud with an angle in it. All right. Hope that's coming across. Yeah, all right. I'm going to put little mountains in the background. This is sort of near the Blue Ridge Mountains, so I'm going to drop in just a little bit darker blue for some distant mountains back in here, like this. And they're it's a little bit too wet because the mountains are like blending with the sky. So let's take a little bit less water in my brush. You can take the water out of your brush by touching a paper towel at the base of it, and it sucks the water out, leaves a lot more dry paint. And still wet, but it's drier than it would be if you hadn't tried to take the water out. There we go. We're getting we can have a little soft edge back there, but I didn't want to have a total blurry edge. Pick up a little bit of this lavender color and mix it in. May not see much of this over here. I'm going to put trees over it, but we'll throw it in there. Okay. Stop, take a look at that. Don't want to mess with it too much, I'll get it. All right. Stop with that for a minute and see if we can maybe dry that. Get my hairdryer out here and turn off my microphone at the same time. Okay, now let's go pick up some colors for these trees. I want these trees to have some nice oranges in them. I'm going to use some CAD yellow and my primary, or CAD red and primary yellow. And I'll be putting some greens in there. I'll be putting some blue. So we take our three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and We can make lavenders, we can make it green, we can make it orange, just depending on how we mix them. So you see the colors all kind of mingling together here. And just going to start up here in the back with some of the blue. And we'll just start popping in some of these. Wanted to have a little more green in them than that. Kind of laying the brush down and just letting it do its thing here. We're going to get some reds in there, some oranges. Pick up some more yellow. Pick up some more blues. Leave some room around this cabin here. Come back and get in some other colors, picking up a little Cooper, or still to green brown. Put a little bit of that in here. Got a lot of trees in the distance. This is a real heavy woods. Back with some blue on top of it. I'm not really cleaning my brush out that much. I'm just sort of laying one color on top of another. So I'm gonna, interesting mix of colors going across here. Doesn't look anything like the photograph, as you might imagine. The color in a photograph is really pretty, almost black. Has some darkness in here because it is in the shade. As these go down, these get a little darker down toward the water. So we'll put a little bit of that lavender color in there and then come back and pick up some more yellows. This area here is going to start getting brighter and oranger as it gets around that sun. I don't know if you can see the little circle there for the sun. So I'm going to be putting that in and letting it sort of have some rays popping down. That's part of the test of this painting, is to see if I can make some sun rays. Look like they're radiating out away from the sun. I want to cover up all that pretty colors I got over there. Put in some reds. Like that. Trying to make this look like a fall scene as much as possible. All right, a lot of stuff going on here. And a little more dark violet, a little bit too red there. I picked up warranted, but all right, I'm getting a nice little mixture of and let's put a little more dark over here. This is going to be some of the foreground colors and over here. All right, stop, walk back, take a look. Yeah, that's getting to be a nice set of trees in the distance. Probably not completely dark enough to represent a sunset, but that's okay. We're going to lighten this thing up. Just using ultra blue, cad red, primary yellow. This is all going to be water in here with reflections, so I'm going to kind of painting around the water right now. Picking up a little sap green in some areas to that. This bank over here, we've got some darks sort of coming up. We actually want to see through, leave ourselves a little opening here to see the water through the trees here. And they get darker as they come forward, hopefully. Pick up some more blue. I'm getting a mess on my palette, but I'm getting some really nice color variation. So just changing the color, changing the value, changing the width of these, not letting it get too much of any one color in any one spot, which is sort of what you see in the fall when the colors start changing. This is going to be some water over here. Yeah. I'm going to put the water in first before I finish that off. Over here, this is pretty much all trees. Pick up some more green and blue. Kind of dark over here, really. So mixing our red and blue and a little sap green in there gives us a nice dark color for over here. Okay. Got a lot painted in already. A little bit of depth in there I'm seeing. All right, let's stop with this, kind of clean out our palette here. Got a lot of mud in here, so I want to clean it out, get some fresh paint so I don't end up carrying this mud everywhere. All right. Okay. Now this sun, I don't know if I want to use this. I'll clean out my bright yellow here. It has a bright yellow with a bit of red in it, not much. See if I can just sort of lay this in. Try to make a circle out of it, but not a perfect circle. I'm going to put some trees over and around that are a little bit darker. But right now, that's all I want for the sun. And see if that's showing through. Yes, it is. Okay. Now, the sky was going to be light, and the middle ground is going to be a mid value, and the foreground was going to have some light areas where the sun's reflecting down here. So let's see now if we can come back and put another little layer of a little bit darker trees here. Trees should still have some red in them. Getting a nice very impressionistic. Start putting some trees up here like this. I'm just scraping, sort of dry brush scraping. Very light, leaving a lot of holes in there. Connect it here. Okay. Over here, let's darken some of this up. A little more darkness here. It has to kind of look like it's a sunset. I got it so bright that it's almost too bright, so we'll okay, that's getting a little darker. see here. Bring in a few things look like trees in here. Some more paper towel out. Okay. Thinking I may need darken this down just a little. Start showing some more trees. Bushes. Pick up some greens. Back to some more tree trunks. Over here we've got some that are paint around a few trees, maybe a little negative painting. So far, stuck with this 1-inch brush. Maybe you're getting tired of seeing me paint with a 1-inch brush for the whole painting, but sometimes it's a challenge to just see if you can get a whole painting done with one brush. I get some more dark in here. These are a little bit too light. More fluffy trees in there. Pick up some reds. You've seen me scrape before with the back of the brush. You can always take the pointed edge here and if the paint is just the right wetness on the paper, you can scrape and it will scrape something out and leave a white trail like that. If you get it too late, it doesn't do anything. If you get it too soon, it fills back in and just turns back to the color that it was. So some of these will work, some won't. So you never know what you're going to get until you try it. If you do too much of this, it looks sort of contrived, but just here and there to get these nice little tree trunks in there that you probably couldn't get otherwise because you're actually scraping this paint out. And you can always go back and get our little script liner brush here and pick up some darks. So I'm using my biggest brush and my smallest brush. And I'm going to pick up some darker tree trunks and just sort of put in some more details back in here. Something like that. Put a tree that might be all the way dead or half dead, who knows. But you got some interest that shows, gives you a little more depth if you can put some things in the middle ground like this that help show something's going on. I got some nice scrapings back in here. Hope you can see that. Maybe a little difficult with the put a couple of things over the sun here that look like they're in the trees. It looks like these are really some trees that are foreground. We're going to come back now later and try to put in some rays that sort of shoot out of that, but I want to finish more of the painting before I do that. Go back to my big brush here. I like this doesn't look great over here. I want to see if I can put some other color in there to sort of tone that down a little bit. All right. All right, stop, step back, take a look at it from a distance. 31 minutes. Well, we may take as long on this as we do on some others. I thought we might do it faster, but no big deal. All right. The water, get some of this mud out of my palette. And start this thing over again. Water, I'm going to take some clear water on my brush and just start putting a little bit of wet this across here, leaving a slight gap, maybe 1/8 of an inch or so below the bank back there in the distance. So we'll flood this all the way down to here, a little water back there. This is all water in here. I'm putting this, it actually comes all the way over this way. It runs behind all this. And something like that. Let that set for a second or two and get soaked in. Pick up some of my blues here. So the water is going to reflect either the sky or the surrounding bank or what's under the water or what's in the water. So water really has no color, but it does reflect everything around it. If it's reflecting a sky or reflecting the mud underneath or what's on the banks beside it. So let's just throw in a few horizontal streaks here, like this, like that. And see if we can darken it up a little bit, get a little more, maybe I'll put a little this neutral tint in there to gray it down a little bit more. So if it's reflecting the trees in this background, we sort of want to have some brown coming down. When I make brush strokes that go down vertically, that tells the eye that this is water. Put a little more in here like this and see if we can get a little more reflection. It really sort of lightens out into a very light. I'm going to try this ultramarine violet I got. That's probably a color I don't have to mix as much. I'm just going to run it over here wherever I've got wet paper. Run this violet. And as it gets toward us, maybe it picks up a little darker. So I'm making some nice gradiated washes and vertical streaks in that. I'm supposed to tell you that is water. Okay. Left a few white spots back there. That's okay. Over here on this side, I'm just going to kind of fill this in. I'm going to cover that up with some more dark trees over here, but I want to get it, let's get the paper covered. I'm wondering if that sky needs to have just a little more color in it, because I think since this is a sunset, we're going to have to pick up a little more darkness there, but see what happens up here. Just a light wash over that to darken it down just a bit. And maybe a few things to emphasize the clouds. That's a little bit too much blue. Okay, putting a little more darkness in the sky, a few more clouds up there. And the top of it should actually even be a little bit darker, I believe. So I'll highlight the top, leave some little bright reflections on the tips of those clouds. Something like this. Pick up a little more darkness, put in there. Darken all this down just a little with a slight light wash. Okay, now that darkened it down a little bit. It's starting to look more like a sunset instead of a sunrise. You may want to make yours a sunrise for all I know. You may not want to darken that sky that much, but I'm going to do next. I'm getting a lot of this done. Okay, I've got trees here in this foreground area. I think I'll work on those now. Pick me up some darker colors. Pick some sap green up here. Pick up some of this cad red. The red and the green will make a gray if you put them together. Why is that? That's because they are complementary colors across from each other on a color wheel. Any two colors that are across from each other on the color wheel will, if you mix them together, will make a gray. And you can have a gray to the red side or a gray to a green side in the case of red and green. But other colors like purple and yellow will make a gray. A blue and a Burnt sienna will make a gray. So there's a lot of ways to get grays in your paintings. And when a color looks too bright, you say it needs to be grayed down, you just kind of use these complement colors to gray something down. If I can get a nice little tree here that stands out. Right now this looks like it all kind of runs together for me. Can't tell there's water back there. So I'm going to darken this foreground, putting some blue in it. And where am I going here? Darken this down with some big bold brush strokes here. I don't want this to be all that obvious over here on the right side. It's not something I want you to spend a lot of time looking at, but it's a series of trees and things that sort of connect us to the water. There's a tree that sort of comes down this way, that goes off of the bottom of the painting. Have a lot of sort of making some of this up right now. The photograph itself doesn't really show a lot of stuff. It does show some nice little wispy things here that kind of cut through, and something like this. So I'm just making blocks of trees, dark shapes, something that sort of covers the water here. Different colors, picking up greens, picking up some reds, picking up some blues. A little tree here we'll put in that may or may not exist in that photograph, but I'm going to stick him in there anyway. Just because I want some activity going on over here. So you don't have to be a slave to the photograph, but you do have to think about the composition, think about what you're putting in, where it's going. It still has to look somewhat representational. Still don't think I have dark enough trees right in here. This needs to be even darker. Picking up the wrong blue, but let me get some. There, these trees are getting some nice darkness because they are in the foreground and they are away from the sun. So let's put some good darks in there. Blues and this neutral tint make a good dark color. Just darken this corner down here to get it. A few things across here. Maybe we can connect these across. So it looks like we have a nice little scene there. The edge of these paintings shouldn't be overly interesting. It should be fairly abstract. You want the focal point to be up in this area where the sun is. So every time you put something in this foreground that people look at, takes away some from the focal point. But you also have to make this thing look like it's representational. All right, put a few more dark trunks in over here maybe. All right, don't spend a lot of time. Take a step back, look at it. Yeah, we're getting some nice movement of that water. You see it going all over the place. Have a little cabin back there in the distance, and we have the sun. So let's a little bit smaller brush. I want to pick up my half-inch flat, and the roof of this little building back there. I think I'm going to make it have just a spot of red in it. Light rusty, like a light rusty roof back here. See what this looks like. Something like that. Put another eave on it over there, like that. And we'll take a little of this grayish blue color and put a little front on it. It is more in the shadow. And then this side that faces the sun, we'll just make it sort of a light gray, something like that. All right. This water over here in the foreground, I need to have something in there. I don't know how wet that is. Some wetness on my brush and sort of should have done that before I put those trees in, but anyway, I didn't. Using wet, very wet. All right, something like that helps tell the story back there. These other areas, I might want to just touch in a little bit of color back here. Put in some darks like rocks or something back here, maybe. I don't know. Get a dark color. See if I can make it look like a rock. Doesn't look much like a rock. And we'll put a little divider to make it look like it's got something going on back here. Like that. Okay, a couple of tricks here to give us take a wet brush and just draw some streaks. Take a wet brush and do that. You'll get some horizontal streaks. You can take a paper towel and then where you've wet it, you can actually scrape out some of the water. Depending on the type of paper you have, this may or may not work better. I know that Fabriano has a little more trouble with water lifting or being able to lift colors off of the paper. Arch's paper seems to be a little better at that. I'll put some interesting things here if I can get some soft edges up here like this. A little bit of something going on in here. Dry brush. Like that. Okay, what else does this need? I see little spots of white over here I don't particularly like. I'll see if I can darken some of that up, make a bank over here to make it look like that is definitely water back there. By putting a dark base under it. You can use something like neutral tint. You can use something like burnt umber or one of these browns. and put a nice horizontal base. Makes it look like it's a lot more of a bank. So you don't want to leave a lot of extraneous little white areas floating around in your painting if you don't have to. Try to save the whites for last if possible. And still think I need a little more, something coming out here like this. Yeah, that's a little better maybe. You can make this painting your own. You don't have to follow my example, but certainly you can have a lot of fun with this. Try the different colors. All right, let's see now. Let's see if this is dry around the sun. What I want to do is see if I can take a brush like maybe this little number 4 round, clear water, and treat the sun like a clock. From the center, you want to pull out a wet line like that. You can't even see that, but pretend I'm drawing from the center of this sun out like this, and I'm just putting some wet lines in the paper. Let that set for a second or two and see if I can make this paint disappear, if I can remember where I put it. It's not perfect, but the idea is to get this sort of radiating like this. And there's several ways to do this. This is one way that I've thought I would practice with you today. As the sun goes down, many times there's a lot of rays that sort of shoot out from it. Where that one went over there. Part of it is it's not dark enough so you can see it probably behind there. That's why I tried to darken some of that up a little bit. But the idea is that you can see a couple of rays coming out of that sun. And it's really just putting clear water on the paper and letting it wet the paint that's under there, and then using your paper towel, scrubbing over it, and you'll pick that paint up. And like I said, the paper that you use makes a difference. And this paper may not be the best for doing this kind of thing. But that's what we got, so that's what we're using. So how do I make those rays stand out just a little more? Need to finish this up. I've been going here for 54 minutes, so I make them stand out a little bit more by using the color that's around them. We'll go back in and try to put in a little bit of darkness around them. Maybe use this big old brush again. Pick up some grays, and if I just touch it here, a little bit of something like this. A negative painting around these rays. I should have let it dry better probably before I started this, but I want to get this finished for you. And the rays get smaller as they come down, so it's almost like painting behind a branch of a tree or behind a trees. Over here we'll put just a little dark. Alright, you get the idea. These may not be the most perfect rays, but you can definitely see they are shooting out from that sun, and I almost have them in too perfect of triangles. I tell you about not making geometric shapes too perfect, but in this case we didn't have a whole lot of choice. When you're imitating something like this from real life, put in just a few more dark. Something like this. All right, I like that color. Maybe a few more darks over here or down here like this. I'm destroying some of the work that I did in there, but it's all in an effort to make this sun look brighter. By putting the darker around it, it brightens up the sun. So we got some trees that are sort of overlapping the sun here around it. All right, I think I'm going to stop. I'm going to make it worse. All right, well, that's sort of the idea I was trying to get across with this painting, that you can sort of make a sunset that starts to give a little more interest to your paintings, and use a couple of techniques of lifting paint. And again, it's a very abstract. I could probably continue to work on this for another good while if I want to keep messing with it. I may do a few things to it before I post it on YouTube, but right now I think I'm going to say stop and get this thing wrapped up and edited and get it uploaded for you to see. So with that said, I think I will stop and zoom back and say thank you once again for watching my YouTube channel. I hope you like this painting. I hope you'll give it a try. Send me some comments on YouTube and I'll try to answer them if you have a question, or tell me what you think about it. Tell me if you've had any trouble, and I'll try to help you out. So until I see you again, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Bye. Okay, so this is the painting you see as I finished, and I really wasn't overly happy with it. I didn't like the looks of those rays that I left you with, so I tried to do a little more work on them. Made them a little smaller, made a few smaller ones at the top. I changed the color of the sky to add the yellow sunset rays there, reflections in the water, and darkened some of the trees on the left side. And I hope you like this a little better, and what you see here is the way I finished the painting. So give this a try and let me know how you do. Till I see you again, so long for now. Bye.